So as your being comes to stillness and silence, you might notice that parts of you feel quite settled and here, and other parts may be kind of spinning, not quite here, not quite landed. And today I'd like to focus on how we can open and allow these types of contrasts to be in our experience. That seeming contradictions can coexist in our experience, especially when we allow the lens of our awareness to open to the vastness of our experience. So the mind tends to make things black and white, and it tends to hyperfocus on one thing or another. But one of the ways that we can come more fully into our moment and come into the fullness of what our moment has to offer us is to open to the fact that the equal and opposites are always coexisting. So in this moment, parts of the being might feel quite still and settled, and other parts may not feel that way. And that's not hypothetical, it's our actual experience. And as we allow for both, there's kind of relaxation that can happen that doesn't need to grab onto one or push the other away or even try to figure out the discrepancy. So we're not separating our experience into good or bad, what we want and what we don't want. We're coming into a way of encountering our moment that is simply open to what is arising, and that is okay, that is comfortable with seemingly opposite states coexisting. And this may be a very important way of helping our system to be with the very challenging states. So in this moment, as you land here today, is there a particular challenging state that has landed here on your seat? Maybe it's a physical state, physical sensation, some kind of symptom that's flared up. Maybe it is an emotional state moving through that feels challenging. Maybe it's a lack of peace, a lack of joy, a feeling like something is missing. And so in any of those scenarios, we can ask ourselves, is the equal and opposite also here? So in this anxiety, is it true? When I really stop and open, is it true that peace is not also available to me. Now, to the mind, that doesn't make sense, but in the actual experience, when we stop and when we look for ourselves, the experience is that, in fact, anxiety and peace are coexisting in our being. If there's some kind of physical discomfort happening, are there also parts of my experience that feel quite comfortable, quite relaxed, quite at ease? So instead of hyper-focusing on what we don't want, we open and we become curious as to whether the opposite is also here. And we're not trying to manufacture that. It's just by asking the question itself. Oftentimes, even the slightest bit of the presence of that contrasting state makes itself known. And then we've now opened the aperture of our lens of awareness, and we experience for ourselves that both are coexisting. And one of the most powerful ways to naturally open to this more global way of seeing that allows for contrasts is noticing what we're hyperfixating on, what we're trying to fix, what we're trying to find solutions to. And just allowing it for a moment to be just as it is. Entertaining the possibility that there is nothing that you need to do about this seeming problem. And as the fixer, the solution finder begins to let go of its grasp, just right there can be an opening that puts us in touch with a broader experience of our moment, one that may also include the opposite. As we open up, and move beyond this needing to fix or find solutions, there can be this sense of all is well. And it coexists with the one that wants to fix. And we can let them do that. We can let them inform each other. There's an exchange of information that happens between these two parts of our being. And all is well informs the part that is perceived as a problem. And the problem itself, the perceived problem, also communicates. And in that communication can receive greater wisdom, greater understanding, and intuitive guidance. So when we let the opposite states coexist, they can communicate, find harmony with each other, exchange information, intelligence. And this is really what intuitive living and soul-guided living is. And so bringing it back to the practical, is there a particular state or experience that you're having right now that the system is struggling with? You can maybe feel the part that's rejecting it or wanting to change it or manipulate it. And just let that be here and just notice that compartmentalizing that tends to happen and that hyper-focusing. And just notice the state of being that brings to the foreground. And then simply ask the question, is the opposite also available to me here? Is it true that peace or joy or ease or whatever it is not here as well right now? And notice how that feels in your system. Notice where that sense of peace, joy, ease arises from, where it lives in your body, what its flavor is. And now include that. And now both can coexist, and you may notice there's a relaxation that happens in the system because the grasping and the rejection has softened away. There's more openness, there's more availability. And the mind gets to rest too. It gets to experience something beyond its usual black and white. Notice how that feels in your system. This is really good feedback. Does it feel more relaxing? Does it feel more restful for the nervous system? Does it feel more connected to a sense of wholeness? And then for the rest of our time together, we will allow ourselves to just really steep and be nourished by this sense of wholeness, this sense of connectedness with a broader experience of ourselves, a sense of availability.